President Trump, who met with El Salvador's president this week, made it clear he does not intend to seek the return of Abrego Garcia to the United States. Deportation without due process is at the center of the Abrego Garcia case. The administration claims he is an MS-13 gang member, something his family and his attorneys deny. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen flew to El Salvador himself to try to get a meeting with the man whose family, including his wife, an American citizen, is still in Maryland, pushing for his return. First, authorities refused, but late Thursday, Senator Van Hollen was able to sit down with Abrego Garcia, who was not in his jail garb and not in the hellish Secot prison, but instead in plain clothes at a nearby hotel. While President Trump accused Van Hollen of defending a violent gang member, the senator says the issue goes far beyond the case of Abrego Garcia.
If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights and due process for everyone else in America.
Yes. And Senator Van Hollen joins me now. So you had this extraordinary trip to El Salvador. When you got there, you demanded, or you asked to see Abrego Garcia. You were flatly denied, and then suddenly they brought him to see you. Explain, what happened?
Well, you're right. I was denied by the vice president. I then, the next day, tried to drive to Secot prison, which is this notorious prison.
Yeah.
Soldiers waved me to the side of the road about 3 kilometers out. I said, "What are you doing?" They said they were gotten orders not to allow me to proceed.
Not even to get within miles of the...
Yeah, 3 kilometers. I asked them if they knew anything about the health of Abrego Garcia. They said they knew nothing about it. We had a number of press conferences in El Salvador pointing out that they were complicit in this illegal scheme with the Trump administration and pointing out that it's illegal under international law to prevent any communication with a prisoner.
Because his family hadn't heard from him, nobody had any contact for weeks.
That's right. This is a guy who was just abducted off the streets of Maryland, put in a couple airplanes, didn't know he was going to El Salvador, and ends up in the most notorious prison.
So how'd you end up meeting with him then? What happened?
I think at some point the president of El Salvador realized it was looking really bad to have this person who'd been absconded from America, from the streets of Maryland, in one of their prisons and not able to communicate. So I ended up getting a call saying, "We will bring him to your hotel." And that's how we met.
So did you walk into a trap, though? I mean, they bring him to your hotel. He's in the civilian clothes, and you met with him. We saw the images. You put out the picture of meeting with him, you know, the beginning of the meeting. You're sitting there, you're drinking water and talking to the guy in the hotel lobby, I assume. And then at some point they bring in these, like, you know, glasses that look like margarita glasses?
No, it wasn't a trap. My goal was to meet with him.
Yeah.
And make sure I could tell his wife and family he was okay. That was my goal, and I achieved that goal. You're absolutely right that the Salvadorian authorities tried to deceive people. They tried to make it look like he was in paradise. They actually wanted to have the meeting by the hotel pool originally.
Really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had to negotiate that. They wanted to put me right overlooking the pool. In fact, if you had a different angle on the camera shot, you would see the pool. Because
they did, right. Bukele put out a statement saying, miraculously risen from the death camps and torture and sipping margaritas with you. Yeah. I mean, they were really trying to make you look like you were hanging out with somebody that they say is a gang member.
Look, this is a person who the United States courts have determined was illegally taken from the United States. And my whole purpose here is to make sure that we observe the rule of law, the Constitution, and due process rights. Bukele, yes, he tried to make it look like somehow Abrego Garcia was enjoying himself. All of that was a setup, right? He had the waiters there. People ordered the waiters to bring these things that look like margaritas. Yeah. It just goes to show the lengths that Bukele and Trump will go to try to deceive people about what this case is all about. What this case is all about is simply complying with the Supreme Court order to facilitate his return and make sure he gets due process.
So what did Abrego Garcia tell you?
He told me about the trauma he had been experiencing, both in terms of the abduction and the fact that he was originally sent to Sikot, which is this notorious prison.
Yeah, we've seen the
He told me
images.
how much he missed his wife and his kids. He specifically mentioned his 5-year-old boy who has autism because that boy had been in the car with him when U.S. agents had stopped them and handcuffed him and then taken him away. So he described all that, and he told me that he had moved recently to a new prison facility. So those are some of the highlights.
I want you to listen to something that Gavin Newsom had to say about all the attention this case has gotten.
This is the distraction of the day, the art of distraction. This is the debate they want. This is their 80-20 issue as they've described it.
Is he right about the politics of this? I mean, the Republicans have taken great joy in portraying you as somebody who is defending somebody who's in this country illegally, they say is a gang member, and, you know, and they say that they're trying to just enforce the laws.
John, I don't think it's ever wrong to protect the Constitution and protect due process rights. I think conservative and libertarians, when they think about this case, the idea of somebody being deprived of their liberty and actually in a foreign prison without due process of law, that's something we should all fight for. I think what Americans are tired of is people who want to put their finger to the wind to see what's going on. And I would say that anyone that's not prepared to defend the constitutional rights of one man when they threaten the constitutional rights of all doesn't deserve to lead.
As you know, the president himself has been attacking you by pointing out some of the aspects of Abrego Garcia's record, including the fact that his wife had an order of protection against him in 2021 and alleged some pretty serious allegations of abuse, and even that he had detained her. Are you concerned about your defense of somebody? Obviously, everybody in this country, even those undocumented immigrants, have rights, but are you concerned about standing so forcefully with somebody that has, you know, at least a questionable record?
I am not defending the man. I'm defending the rights of this man to due process. And the Trump administration has admitted in court that he was wrongfully detained and wrongfully deported. My mission and my purpose is to make sure that we uphold the rule of law, because if we take it away from him, we do jeopardize it for everybody else. And I do want to point out, Karl, yes, the Trump administration is trying to change the story. They're trying to detract attention. Here's where they should put their facts. They should put it before the court. They should put up or shut up in court. Because Judge Zinnes, who's the district court judge in this case, said, and I quote, they put no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or to any other terrorist activity, unquote. She says that a couple times in her decision. So, Mr. President and Republicans and anybody involved with this, take your facts to court. Don't put everything out on social media. As to his wife is the one who is asking us all to bring him home so his rights can be respected.
And in fact, even if he is a gang member, that doesn't mean you don't have rights, due process rights.
Well, exactly. But again, the place to litigate that is in the courts, and they've not put the evidence before the judge in the case. So again, put up or shut up in court.
Let me ask you also, we heard from Tom Homan, which we'll be playing shortly. He was very critical of you, not surprisingly, and said, you know, that he was alarmed that you would go to El Salvador to meet with an alleged gang member. He didn't say alleged, but a gang member. And when you have not taken a single visit to the border over the past 4 years or shown concerns about what was happening at the border.
So I read
Your response.
I read that transcript.
Yeah.
I don't have time to go through it all. He is lying through his teeth on many places in that record. And I have been actually fighting MS-13 probably longer than Donald Trump ever uttered the name MS-13. For 20 years in this region, I helped stand up the anti-gang task force. But the idea that you can't defend people's rights under the Constitution and fight MS-13 and gang violence is a very dangerous idea. That's the idea the president wants to put out. That's why they're spreading all these lies. Take your information to the court, because you clearly have not done that, and respect this person's constitutional rights and follow the order of the Supreme Court, which they're defying as we speak.
All right, Senator Van Hollen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John.